chronic pain, dislocations, gastric issues such as gastroparesis, chronic constipation, IBS, scars.
Pain, dislocations, and fatigue.
Stretchy, elastic skin, very fragile skin that tears very easily, and of course, joint hypermobility.
I don't remember the last time that I wasn't in pain. I've been in pain since I was a child.
People can't see the pain you're in, and it's hard for them to believe in that when they can't feel it.
I wish I would have known that, or understood, I guess, that it was a lifelong thing, and that there was basically no treatments or anything to help it.
Being prepared for the mental lifelong battle that is EDS was the hardest thing for me, and I wish someone would have prepared me for how hard that would have been.
Although I have this syndrome, disease, condition, whatever you want to call it, I'm not going to be defined by it, and I can still live my life to the fullest. And I'm just taking the scenic route in life. And although there'll be things that I can't do, I can still adapt things to make them work for me.
I didn't know anybody who had Ehlers Danlos. I never even heard of Ehlers Danlos, so I didn't know what was ahead for me.
Because it was something that nobody had thought to look into.
No other disease in the history of modern medicine has been neglected in such a way as Ehlers Danlos syndrome.
Ehlers Danlos syndrome and hypermobility spectrum disorder are a group of connective tissue disorders. Connective tissue is the stuff that holds everything in your body together, which means that this condition can affect multiple systems. Although there have been cases of EDS recorded as far back as Hippocrates, from Paganini the violin virtuoso who had joint laxity, hypermobility and a slender figure, to travelling performers from the late 1800s such as Elastic Lady and the Indian Rubber Man. It wasn't until Edvard Ehlers published details of a patient in 1901 that the condition gained further recognition.
September 12, 1901, Copenhagen. The patient has the most lax joints I have ever seen. The skin is hyperextensible and has a tendency to bruising without obvious trauma. The patient also gave a history of delayed walking in childhood and frequent patellar subluxations. I feel this is all connected and should be a condition of its own.
Another case seen by Henri Alexandre Danlos in 1908 made further discoveries.
May 15th, 1908, Paris. I disagree completely with the previous diagnosis for this patient. The lesions on the knees and the elbows just do not fit. Pottier has found them to be vascular in origin. The fragility of the skin is most unusual. It must be the root of the patient's problems.
After discovering 6 of the now 300 worldwide cases, British doctor Frederick Parkes Weber suggested in 1936 that the disorder causing stretchy, fragile skin, together with lax hypermobile joints, should be known as Ehlers Danlos syndrome.
When you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras.
Doctors learn this phrase during their training. It means to look out for the most obvious cause of the symptoms rather than diagnose anything rare or complex. But zebras do exist, and it often means that they are left for many years without answers. The zebra has since become the defining logo of Ehlers Danlos syndrome. The average time it takes for someone with EDS to get their diagnosis is 12 years. We spoke to Martin, who suffered from a complication of EDS called craniocervical instability, where the ligaments of the neck fail and then the brain distends into the neck. He had nearly 20 years of symptoms and misdiagnoses, which led him to being mostly bedridden before he was diagnosed.
This is just to try and log how I feel or what my symptoms are when I'm not good. My head's killing. My neck's sort of stiff, just at the top of my neck, and my head's sort of hurting behind my eyes. It's like pulsing with my heartbeat, and if I move, or if I know that if I try and push and get up, it's gonna suddenly just.
After discovering the cause of his many years of symptoms, Martin found that no UK doctor was able to treat him, so had to fundraise himself in order to travel to Barcelona for life-changing surgery.
It was a lot of money. We weren't able to get anywhere near the target, but thankfully through borrowing money off family and loans and things like that, we decided that if this was it, we needed to do it sooner rather than later. So I had surgery April 2017. I saw a UK neurosurgeon before then, actually, with all this diagnosis and with the plan, and he looked at it, looked at my scans, and literally eyeballed the scans. He didn't do any measurements. He just looked at them and said, "No, I don't think this is right. This doesn't affect men. It's very dangerous. It's not a good idea, and you shouldn't do it."
Martin decided to go ahead with the 6-hour surgery. He spent 3 days in intensive care and another week in the Spanish hospital, but began to see results straight away.
Within 3 days, when I came round, I could already speak much more fluently. I had a bad tremor on my right arm, which had completely gone, and the headaches, even after that massive surgery, were already noticeably reducing. Theoretically, maybe should have had some physio follow-up, but unfortunately, I felt a bit shunned. I had no follow-up here in the UK because with EDS, you're not under a consultant who then manages the whole thing. You're under each individual consultant for each individual symptom, really, of the condition. So I was left to my own devices.
Martin still lives with EDS on a permanent basis, and his 8-year-old daughter has also been diagnosed.
So I've got concerns. So I suppose part of it is making sure that in years to come, if she's affected as I was, I would hope that by then there is more knowledge and acceptance and treatment in the UK.
As Ehlers Danlos syndrome is a genetic condition, it usually means multiple family members are affected. But the difficulties associated with EDS don't just affect those with the condition. Carol has spent 6 years searching for a diagnosis for her daughter, Sophie.
It was such a relief to finally get a diagnosis. So even though it is, a very difficult thing to accept, just getting a diagnosis rather than not knowing was really important. EDS is so complex and it affects so many parts of the body. It really took over our life, and definitely for me, I found myself not reading for pleasure anymore and just constantly reading medical books on diet and low histamines and hypermobility. And yeah, I just found I never really relaxed.
Sophie's condition impacts the whole family, as dietary restrictions, fatigue, and other issues caused by EDS make social events challenging.
The main difficulties of planning things as a family, going out for lunch or dinner or accepting a social invitation, is whether she's going to make it or not. And we've learned to accept that, but it's very difficult to describe to people and make them understand why she can't come. As a family, we haven't really eaten in a restaurant for 3 years because she's on a low histamine diet, which is so restricted. Cooking in somebody's home, it's very difficult to be able to have to say, she can't have this, she can't have that, can we eat this? So in the end, we've just stopped going places. And it's so difficult with other people, of course, because we're just understanding it, and it's very difficult to expect others to understand it. You get comments like, oh, she's got new symptoms, she must be a hypochondriac. She's just kind of searching for different illnesses and symptoms. It's just incredibly difficult. Family, friends, everybody kind of must feel like she's making it up or faking it.
Carol finds it hard to watch her daughter battle this condition.
It hurts every day. To see our daughter, who is smart, intuitive, creative, to see her physically struggle every single day with pain, anxiety, such a restricted diet, physically struggling every day. It just chips a piece off you every single day.
Think horses, not zebras.
Pain, loneliness, misunderstood, brave, strong.
Character building.
Since diagnosis, things that I used to love doing, I am terrified to do.
Not being listened to or believed.
There will still be doctors out there who don't believe you. There will still be doctors out there who don't know what EDS is. There will still be doctors out there who treat you as if you're looking for drugs.
There's just not enough awareness even within the medical community.
Yeah, that I just wasn't ready for people just being like, oh, Maya, you're in a wheelchair, or, you know, I saw you walking yesterday, what's going on today?
It's isolating because you usually can't partake in all the cool things that like someone in their mid-20s tries to take part in.
I'm just taking the scenic route in life.
I just feel like I'm wading through mud trying to do anything. I've not been in this much pain for so long, and it's just everywhere. Like, just so intense. I've gotten so weak, and it just hurts so much. And I just can't take it anymore.
So I went for a walk and got way too out of breath and way too dizzy. Had to just sit on the floor in the mud. And now I want a shower. The shower is 2 feet away, and I just can't even get up off the bathroom floor.
Jenni was diagnosed in 2016 after having to leave university and searching for almost 2 years for answers to her seemingly unrelated symptoms.
I watched all my friends graduate this afternoon, and it was so lovely, and I'm so proud of them. But it got to me a bit because obviously I should have been graduating today with them. If it wasn't for my health stuff, that's where I'd be. But I'm in a totally different place. And it just made me worry about going back to uni and stuff as well. Just that I'll never achieve it. And that I'll struggle too much. But I'm allowed to have this moment, but then tomorrow I need to get over it. And forget about what could have been, should have been, would have been. And just do what I can, because I want to go back and I want to achieve it, despite all the odds. In 2 years' time, I can be there doing it, and this will all have been worth it.
She was also diagnosed with comorbid conditions, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, which causes high heart rates and low blood pressure, and a brain fluid leak, which needed 4 surgeries to correct.
That's the moment that I'll never forget. It's the moment that my mum realised how much pain I was really in, because it was after one of my surgeries to diagnose a CSF leak, and I had this probe in my head. I'd been in hospital for 3 days while they were monitoring the pressure in my brain, and afterwards they have to take the probe out. But what neither of us realised was that they take it out without any anaesthetic, just in your room. It's not a procedure, they just pull it out. And I can't see because the guy's, pulling the probe out of my head. And all of a sudden I just see my mum's face kind of go white as this guy pulls this kind of 2-3 inch probe out of my head that was much longer than either of us was expecting. And it was causing me nowhere near the amount of distress as any pain that EDS or the CSF leak itself had caused me in the past. And I think that's the moment she realised how real and how extreme my pain really was.
After taking 2 years out, Jenni was able to return to her degree and is now on the verge of graduating. She uses her experiences with the condition to help other sufferers and spread awareness, using the skills she has learnt throughout her course to express what it's like to live with her condition.
I am from all that you can't see. From the pain and exhaustion and a heart rate of 180, even though I look fine on the outside. I am from progress, not perfection. Beginning to learn that perfection does not exist. From the desire to be better than I am, I've forgotten just how far I've come. And that this version of me is the girl I once dreamed of. The girl in the hospital bed with a hole in her head dreamed of being free of the screaming pain. And now she is. The girl stuck at home, trapped by her symptoms, dreamed of being back at university, and now she is. There were the days when she dreamed of being able to walk again, play sport again, dance again, and now she can, albeit at a different pace. I am from fighting for answers when doctors didn't believe or understand. I am from relapse and backward steps, frustrated at not moving forward. I'm from boom and bust and seeing just how long I can keep running on empty. I'm from rehabilitation, getting back on the horse, getting stronger, and not letting pesky dislocations hold me back. I'm from a community who will keep pushing me forwards, but who's also there to catch me when I fall. I'm from all that you can't see.